2025 has been a veritable buffet for racing games. Mario Kart World and Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, despite their ongoing feud, are some of the most polished and fun entries in their respective series. And up until this point, Mario Kart World was my favorite game released in 2025. But, a dark horse has entered the race. One that I didn't expect to compete so fiercely with this year's racing games. One that I didn't think would be the best game of this year. One that I didn't think would be so good that it could be one of the best games made of all time. And that game is Kirby Air Riders. It is unbelievable how good this game is considering how middling and forgettable the original Air Ride was. Sakurai and his team at Bandai have proven that they can literally take any turd and polish it into a diamond because this shit is fantastic. For the uninitiated, Air Riders is a vehicle action game that is basically played with only one button, which sounds incredibly stupid on face. One button, you think? One button. One button. Yeah, one button. Well, there is a second button, but it's basically one button. How much could they possibly get out of one button? Well, that's exactly why there is only one button. There are so many mechanics, so much depth to the gameplay, so much just happening on screen that the one button limitation reads more as a blessing than a curse. If there was more than one button, God save your soul, you wouldn't be able to play this shit. To explain what I mean, I think it's easier to just take a look at gameplay at its peak, which, as you can see, is just a lot. Air Riders in every facet is just chaos incarnate. It never lets off the gas pedal, which is fitting because that's exactly how it controls as well. Your one button is a brake and a boost and a drift and an attack and a dive and many other things. You get one other button for a special attack and to change cars, but that's it. Oh, and you can spin your car. But for the most part, your car drives itself, except for the ones that don't. The real meat of Air Riders is in the cars themselves. Each car controls differently, plays differently, has different stats, etc. All of which can be tweaked by changing characters or items, and God, does Air Riders love fucking with stats. If you want no nonsense, no bullshit, just straight and narrow competition, you have Air Ride. Just basic races down a set track, which is a bit of a misnomer because even basic races are batshit insane. You'll be juggling information like where you are, what place you're in, what item you've got, all while steering and hitting the B button, hoping for something good, which is an impressive feat. You see, every mechanic in the racing alone is kind of brilliant. When you don't have to worry about moving forward, it frees up a lot of space in your mind to worry about what's around you and at a much higher speed. You'll be focused a lot more on positioning, trying to make sure you're lined up with star trails so you can build up a nice speed boost. You'll be thinking about how to take turns more effectively. For instance, if you're using a speed-based car, how can you brake pump a turn without hitting a wall? If you're using a car that has no steering, what's the best spot to stop and turn? If you're using a car that needs to be gassed up, how can you minimize your time spent braking while getting enough fuel? Better yet, you're thinking a lot more about how to fuck with other people. Items aren't complicated, but they do require some thought. There's nothing as disconnected as a red or blue shell in this game. Every attack requires some amount of positioning. Some attacks come out automatically, some require you to be close to opponents, some require foresight and planning, and if all else fails, you can literally just spin into other cars or shoot them with enemies you suck up. And the nice thing about combat in this game is that nothing slows you down, success just speeds you up. Even braking, which was a massive slog in the original game, doesn't feel as slow as you might expect thanks to the generous boost speeds. And after every race, you're sure to be showered in a plethora of goodies. Speaking of which, it's about time to mention the game's obsession with giving you things. Everything you do gives you things. Finish a race, get a thing. Spend money, get a thing. Open a menu, get a thing. Wipe your ass, get a thing. It's a non-stop stream of dopamine. Your brain receptors will be firing like they're on the front lines of World War I. Obviously, the greatest rewards are characters and tracks, but the game also features a robust customization tool and an online market to sell and trade machines. It's actually very flexible, and there are a ton of colorful and fun designs that you can find. It's also nice to see these machines in practice during online modes, especially Air Rider's main mode, City Trial. If the chaos of races wasn't enough to satiate you, then City Trial will be more than enough. Players are tasked with collecting items in a small playground to improve their machine's stats before competing in an assortment of different challenges. But you aren't alone, you'll be competing with 15 other players. City Trial is a deceptively unassuming mode at first glance, but once the game gets going, there's no stopping it. Items by their very nature simply add to the chaos. It's never long before you're zipping to and fro across the map because you're simply too fast to stop. Or maybe you'll be so strong that every time you make contact with another player, they explode on impact. Or maybe you'll be so good at flying that you go up and can't come back down. With a ton of different events, items, competitions, etc., it's honestly very hard to stay away. Every time I finish a round, I just want to start another. There's a perfect mix of strategy, player interaction, and randomness that makes each round of City Trial an explosive bundle of joy. It's a mode that cuts all the fat and that could only be crafted by developers with years and years of experience making games. It understands perfectly what makes games fun. In a way, it reads like a love letter to games as a whole. It's bombastic and in your face. It's incredibly stupid and silly, easy to get into, hard to master. It's the type of toy that could only be made in this medium. It knows exactly what it is, and it doesn't set out to be anything more. In many ways, Kirby Air Riders itself is a miracle. Not because it's a sequel to a spin-off game from 20 years ago, not because it's a fun game, but because it's a passion project made with love. Love for gaming as a medium, but also Kirby as a series, as a creation. And in an era where games are increasingly less about artistry and developers and more about profit, a game made with this much love is something special. No mode demonstrates this love better than Road Trip. As the game's de facto story mode, Road Trip tasks players with completing various challenges and powering up their machines as they work their way through different stages. Along the way, you'll fight bosses from Kirby's past and carve a unique path depending on the helpers you pick up. The gameplay is not groundbreaking, but out of all of Air Rider's modes, Road Trip stretches the mechanics the furthest, not just in terms of stats, but also gameplay variety. While the beginning is painfully slow, the challenges quickly ramp up and eventually snap. Races will go down in mere seconds. Brawls will be frantic and dangerous. You'll be tasked with flying atop the halberd while being shot at with a million lasers. On hard mode, it also posed a satisfying challenge. Some of the bosses and hard challenges actually did put up a fight, and for a Kirby game, it was refreshing to have challenges like this peppered throughout rather than being reserved strictly for the end. Road Trip as a whole is an extreme, though not just in gameplay. Kirby as a series has never really been one for story or spectacle. Out of all of Nintendo's franchises, it is one of the more showy ones, but Air Riders pushes it to such an extreme that you can't help but love it. And as a fair warning, I can't fully talk about Road Trip without discussing spoilers. So without further ado, Road Trip features what I would consider to be Sakurai's best cutscene-oriented story since Brawl. It is such a joy to watch these beautifully animated cutscenes. And though there is narration, there is no dialogue. The budget on the visuals alone must have been insane. So to celebrate, Sakurai has kicked the cosmic horror elements up a notch. I found that the haunting visuals suited the realistic rendering very well. While typically reserved for the finale of Kirby games, it was refreshingly nice to have a story that engaged me throughout the entire mode's duration. I was thoroughly sold on the story's premise, and some of these scenes, like the one where Zora is torn apart, were so striking that I would go back and watch them again. In general, Air Riders just has a knack for showmanship. The entire journey is spent building up tension. You see bits and pieces of the atrocities Nova's committed until you're finally face to face with the weapon it's constructed. And while the boss fights leading up to the end were fun and climactic in their own right, the fight against Gigantus is on another level. Zipping around beneath the treads and flying up onto the deck, striking while avoiding missiles and lasers. It's exciting, it's active, and what's amazing is that it's followed up by an incredibly challenging one-on-one race. But this story isn't over. Nova got away, Zora still hasn't achieved peace. One last run to get all the machines and set things right. And what an incredible sequence this is. The music is so triumphant. The bosses, one after the other, they just melt before you, all while you're cheered on to kick this stupid fucking cat's ass, dude.
操作はワンボタン。